Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show! With special guest, Slip Rick the Skeleton.
It's not my fault the babes like me, man.
Also, Flo.
Perverts.
And don't forget about your legendary loser host himself, Creepy Joe.
Hello and welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show. Tonight we have Neon Maniacs from 1986. Neon Maniacs in 1986 is about a group of teenagers living in San Francisco that discover a nest of homicidal monsters living in the tower of the Golden Gate Bridge. But when they try to tell authorities that the monsters killed all their friends, no one believes them. Alright, Neon Maniacs. Nothing quite captures the essence of the 80s quite like Neon Maniacs.
She set me free.
Of course, that's just my opinion, but it really gets everything in there. You know, like the music, the San Francisco, you know, California in general in the 80s was really, you know, movies are always a big part of everyone's lives, and to see what's going on in the world, it's usually through movies. Someone sitting at a farmhouse in Iowa, you know, would watch Neon Maniacs in 1986, and that would be the trend. You know, like what was going on in California and New York were kind of like what needed to happen. You know, everybody kind of they set the trend for everybody in every state, and not only in the States but in the world.
Suspended until further notice.
So, yeah, Neon Maniacs directed. I'm gonna butcher these names. It's gonna be really bad this time, which is kind of like a Creepy Joe's Horror Show tradition that I butcher names because maybe it's because I can't spell so well, or maybe it's just because I don't deal with names very often. But directed by Joseph, it's Mangina maybe. I don't know. To be honest, Mangine, I believe is how it's pronounced, but it doesn't matter anyway. It really doesn't. But we'll get into him more later anyway. But it has like 3 key people that it stars. I'm not going to get into every character because, you know, they're really not important. The main 3 characters is, you know, Natalie, the virgin, who, you know, witnesses all the craziness, and there's another name that I'm definitely going to butcher. It's Leilani Sorelli. I mean, that can't be it, but whatever it is, we'll just say Leilani Sorelli. Leave it at that. She's basically the main character, and then you have Steve, played by Clyde Hayes. I think that's easy enough. Then you have Paula, played by Donna Locke. I think it's Locke or Lockie, probably Locke, but whatever, man. I mean, like I said, these things aren't important, you know?
He needs a bouncer in the fruit department.
It's pretty quick. Pasta breath.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, the character's the character. The movie's all that matters. That's just my way of excusing myself from being an idiot. But Neon Maniacs 1986, it starts out basically a group of friends are on their way to a field.
Go out.
You know, you have Natalie in a really bitchin' van, you know, in the back of a really awesome van with her friends, and they're kind of like dicks, and they're all going to drink beer, and I guess play football and kind of branch off and kind of do sexual things to each other.
Under a tree.
Under a tree.
On a swing.
Come on, throw the ball.
And like Natalie's the only virgin there, and everyone's like, why are you, isn't it driving you crazy that like you're not getting laid, blah, blah, blah.
She's not on the pill or anything.
Are you?
What do you think?
Yeah, typical, 80s teen movie for the days, nowadays they don't make teen movies like that. But yeah, it's, they're all in this field and they're like tackling each other. It's really cheesy, typical. But, and then these strange monsters. Yeah, I mean, I did leave out a key part. At the very, very beginning, there's a man, in the tunnels of the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever, the tower, the hallways, and he has these cards or drawings of the monsters. But anyway, the movie actually starts when they're on their way to the park, and then they all basically get slaughtered, everybody but Natalie. And then, the police end up picking her up. She tells her story, and of course they don't believe her.
Just a prank, Wiley. Just a bunch of jerk-off kids, probably.
And then, Steve's kind of the only guy in school that believes her, and Steve has a crush on her. And then Paula, who's played by Donna Locke, is she's kind of like a film nerd in school.
Okay.
And she ends up stumbling. She goes down to the Golden Gate Bridge area and ends up finding some goop from the monsters and ends up actually filming them. They don't see her, but she catches them on film. And then the film doesn't even end up, she loses like the footage or something. It doesn't end up recording or something. So the police don't believe her. Like, no one believes any of these kids, but all these other teenagers from school are all getting slaughtered. So, Paula, Steve, and Natalie all are kind of in agreement that there's monsters, and eventually Natalie and Steve get chased. There's an awesome subway scene where they're chased by the monsters. These monsters are after Natalie, and then one tries to attack Paula, and that's where she discovers that water is the key to these monsters' destruction. Water destroys them, and she ends up, destroying one in the shower, and it's kind of like it's a pretty cool scene. So, basically the whole movie, I mean, I can't really, it's not like a real distinct, like, detailed, crazy series of events that goes on. It's basically them being chased by these monsters the whole movie. And Steve plays in this really horrible 80s band.
If baby lied to me, she lied to you.
And they finally decide that the best thing that they could do is, at the school dance, they could give everyone water pistols, and they're all dressed up, as monsters, everyone in the school dance or whatever. It's like a Halloween theme. I don't even know if it's Halloween theme, to be honest. It probably is, but like, I'm forgetting.
Baby lied when she told.
So they're all dressed up as monsters. I'm guessing it was a Halloween theme. And they await the monsters to show up there, and the plan is to have everyone shoot them with water guns, and that was probably like the safest place to be. But it didn't turn out so well. They just end up slaughtering people, and during all this craziness, like during like their lives being in danger, Steve and Natalie, somehow managed to like bang each other out up in the one classroom, like while they're being hunted down by the monsters, which is like the strangest time to get laid, I guess. But it's an 80s movie, and you know, that's what teenagers went to the movies to see those days, I suppose. They didn't have Pornhub in their pocket on their cell phone, so this was their kicks. And so a lot of sex scenes are displaced in these movies, and they happen at the most awkward and strange times when, you know, that would be the last thing on most normal people's minds. But that happens, and it's cheesy, along with the whole dance. It's supposedly a dance, but it looks more like a concert, and it's really cheesy. Like, the band is horrible that Steve plays in. It's actually, like, musically, as far as like what 80s music was, it was actually probably fantastic. But like, he's on stage, he's like, we're gonna get rockin', and you know, we're gonna need these water pistols to cool down because it's gonna be so smoke. We're gonna be rocking so hard in here.
If you're wondering what the squirt guns are for, we plan on really cooking tonight.
And his music ends up being like this really soft, like terrible, typical 80s, you know, like it would be like a Phil Collins type Genesis style music. I mean, that's like really like, that's a real big insult to Genesis. But anyway, then this other band hops on. It's like a rip-off. You know, it's like your typical 80s glam rock and roll. I don't even want to call it glam metal because it. But anyway, the dude has a whip. It's like a rip-off of Alice Cooper. But and they have like the fishnet, you know, shirts on, and they get up and play in between, and then Steve's awesome band gets back on there, and then the monsters start pouring into this sequence.
Behind you! Behind you! The Indian! The Indian, Natalie!
And, you know, like basically no one uses the water guns. Everyone just runs. And then Paula takes like a fire hose and just starts murking everybody, all the monsters. And you know, then there's like 100 kids from the dance at the police station, and they're like, come on now, like they're, you know, so the police are starting to believe something was going on, and they decide to go investigate it. And so they go to the Golden Gate Bridge, and you know, nothing really is happening.
All right, open it up.
Like, they don't see anybody, they don't find the monsters. And the one detective, I don't know if he's the chief of police or the detective. I should know this for a movie review, but this is what you get with Creepy Joe's Horror Show. He goes back in after they don't find anything, and then he ends up, you know, opening the back of a van or a truck or something, and he gets, you know, slaughtered. He's pulled in, so it kind of leaves, a lot of people were upset with the ending of this movie because they said it felt really unfinished, and I'm in agreement with that. It does seem like there's going to be a sequel, like maybe the writer, written by Mark Patrick, another butcher, Carducci. I mean, Mark Patrick Carducci, I think I'm saying that right, is the writer, which I don't really know of any other notable thing. I'm sure he's done other movies. If they're popping up behind my head right now, then that's what they are. But anyway, they kind of left it on a cliffhanger. Not really a cliffhanger, but like an unfinished, almost like there was going to be a sequel or something.
Kid, you stop your squirt gun?
Yeah, I think so.
Keep it. This rain won't last forever.
So it left a couple people, you know, upset. Maybe 2 or 3 people. No one's really talking about it these days other than weirdos like me.
No horror movies?
You know, it kind of leaves you thinking like, well, what happens next? But for what it is, it's a fantastic movie. It's right up my alley. So if you enjoy any of the other movies that I review, this is perfect. and I wouldn't be reviewing it, as I say all the time, if it sucked. Now, if you're into, you know, some like real prestigious movies, like if you're a Titanic fan, this movie's gonna suck. But if you're a horror fan and you're into 80s horror, Neon Maniacs is a great movie. Now, I guess I'll rate this a solid 4 out of 5. I don't even, you know what, like I kind of quit rating these movies. I rate, like I'll skip, you know, ratings here and there, like, because all of them are going to be like 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, the ones that I do, because I really like them. So like, what's the point of rating them when they're all going to be about the same rating? You know, like if, like Return of the Living Dead that I did, you know, last week, I had to rate that. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. There are going to be 5 out of 5s. This isn't my favorite movie, but it's a movie that entertains me for what it is.
What the fuck?
Some other notable movies that Joe Mangina, people are gonna get so pissed at me. Joseph Mangina. Some other notable movies that he did, I guess. I never heard of Smokin' Flesh, but he did Smokin' Flesh. Cinderella from 1977. Squirm from 1976. He did Alligator 1980 and Alligator 2 in 1991. And he did, which is a really great movie that I should probably do here soon, from 1970 is I Drink Your Blood. And then Alone in the Dark from 1982. It's hard to remember all these. The Exterminator from 1984. And, even though this isn't horror, this is probably one of my all-time childhood favorites, because I grew up really into like Hot Rods and Happy Days and Twilight Zone. I really like the 50s and 60s, you know, outside of 80s horror. I really enjoy the genre. You know, I build hot rods. I'm really into like, you know, these older, you know, 50s and 60s. Not necessarily films from the 50s and 60s, which I do enjoy them too, don't get me wrong, but like adaptations like Happy Days and stuff like that. And Lords of Flatbush, he did Lords of Flatbush, and if you haven't seen it, it actually has the Fonz in it, you know, Henry Winkler, and I can't even, it has Sylvester Stallone. I mean, come on now. And it was like one of his first movies. He's like gigantic. He was always a bodybuilder. And it has some other, you know, good actors that went on to do other things in that. But we're not here to talk about the Lords of Flatbush from 1974, but it is notably one of my favorite childhood movies, and it's not a horror movie. But Neon Maniacs from 1986, if you didn't see it, go see it. I mean, let's quit any movie I mention here. Go see it. But, you know, that's pretty much it for this episode, and thank you for hanging out with me and hearing my bullshit review on, you know, Neon Maniacs, Creepy Joe's Horror Show Edition. Thanks for watching, and stay creepy.